Hello, everybody. Hello, Oilers fans. Welcome back to my channel. If it isn't your first time here, thank you for taking the time out of your day to join me for what is a late video. Obviously, well, not obviously, but I'm currently recording this video at just before 4 p.m. on Wednesday, June 11th, which means that it was 2 nights ago that the Oilers took on the Florida Panthers in Game 3 of the Stanley Cup Final, and I'm late to post this video to recap it. Now, obviously, not a lot of exciting stuff to talk about following this unfortunate loss for the Edmonton Oilers. I I didn't really want to make the video right after. It's tough for me to make the videos right after the games on weeknights because I have work the next morning. And I live in the Eastern time zone, so some of these games end very late. So I have to try to find my pockets of time where I'm able to do these videos and edit them and all that fun stuff. Now, yesterday I didn't really have the time, so unfortunately I have to do it today, and cooler heads have prevailed now. I'm not really too angry about the game anymore. I did post a TikTok video right after the game on Monday night, which was a 9-minute rant session of me just ripping the Edmonton Oilers apart. There wasn't a single positive in that game for the Edmonton Oilers. Maybe the only thing I'd say that I thought was a positive was the way they ended it. They went down swinging. And I've seen some people on social media say this, and I kind of agree with it. If you're going to take penalties, do it right. If you want to start getting chippy, if you want to start playing like assholes, and you're going to take penalties and get game misconducts, hurt someone. And I don't like hurting guys. I really don't. I think it's one of the scummiest things you can do in the NHL if you're doing it on purpose or you're doing it. Like, if you accidentally hurt somebody, obviously it's an accident. But if you're going out there to cross-check a guy in the back, you might not want to hurt the guy, but it's an action that definitely could hurt the guy. But in the case of this, like, the Panthers play a scumbag game. So I don't personally give a shit that Edmonton would want to do the same thing. But they didn't, in my opinion, they didn't really do it right. I don't think anybody on Florida was injured, and that's still a good thing. I'm not asking for us to go out there and hurt guys every game. That's not fun. That's not how hockey should be played. But if you're going to spend 10 minutes of a period getting game misconducts and slashing guys and punching guys in the face, drop your gloves and start throwing punches. And then like, the problem with Florida is guys like Sam Reinhart, guys like Sam Bennett, Matthew Tkachuk, they want to act like, assholes. They want to piss your team off all game, but then they don't fight. They skate around and high. Like, there's a clip of Matthew Tkachuk. I won't be able to find it because it wasn't a highlight, but there was a part of the game where Matthew Tkachuk was in a scrum, and he's literally continuing to circle behind the referee. He will not let the guy who's chasing him catch him. Like, these guys, a lot of these guys on Florida are fake tough guys. But if you drop your gloves when you have a hold of them and you just start giving them uppercuts, they have to drop the gloves and protect themselves. So just do it. Like, at that point in the game is over. It doesn't matter how many penalties you're taking anymore. Just do it right. And but regardless, I like Edmonton showing some fight. I thought that was admirable. That's what you need to do in those situations. You need to go out with a bang. You need to go out swinging. Now, I'm not going to spend the time clipping all the goals and putting them up on the screen. There's nothing really to talk about. I'm not blaming Stuart Skinner for this loss. He was bad, but so is every other Oiler. This was a team loss, point blank, period. What I wanted to talk about in this video was some things to talk about moving forward to Game 4. If I made this video in the heat of the moment, I probably would have spent more time ranting about the game, yelling about how bad I thought everybody was, all that fun stuff that is, I guess, what gets engagement. But because I have a cooler head and I've had over a day to talk about the game, talk about my thoughts with friends, coworkers, family, other people on social media. The cooler heads have prevailed at the end of it all. I've sort of moved on and can look ahead to the next game, find some positives from this game, and just look forward to Game 4 tomorrow night. So starting off with lineup changes, there's a lot of question marks surrounding the Oilers lineup going into Game 4. Chris Knoblauch is notorious for making sometimes small changes, sometimes big changes in following losses. And he has stated today at his media that he believes it's likely we're going to get at least one line change going into Game 4. Now, my speculation for this line change is probably going to be Klingberg out of the lineup for Troy Stecher. Now, I talked about it in my TikTok video, which I'll have my TikTok linked in the description. If you have been anticipating my Game 3 post-game video here on YouTube, you wanted to see me yell, you wanted to see me swear, you wanted to see me rant, that's all on my TikTok. That is a heat of the moment rant. But in that video, I talked about the defense. I talked about how Klingberg and Nurse, as I expected they weren't going to work, they didn't work. So, yeah, I think taking Klingberg out is the easy option. Troy Stecher and Nurse seem to work together for whatever reason, and you can keep the D pairings outside of that the same. Ekholm and Bouchard have been a staple D pairing on this team for 2 seasons now. Kulak and Wallman, they're both good defensemen. Wallman is a little bit more manageable on his offside, unlike Kulak. So you give Kulak the chance to play on his proper side, where he thrives, where he thrives. And then you have Wallman play on his offhand, where that's not the best place for him to play, but it's better than Kulak having to do it. And then you get hopefully a better second pairing in Nurse and Stecher as opposed to Nurse and Kulak, who were they look like they were trying to stick handle a grenade every single time that they had the puck last game. It was absolutely god-awful. So I like that change if that's the change Knoblauch chooses to go with. I do think that's what it's going to be, because really the only other one I could see happening by his own choice is maybe Frederick for Skinner, but we all know Knoblauch doesn't like Jeff Skinner. So I think we all know, no matter how much Oilers fans advocate for him to be back in the lineup, I think we all know the guy's not coming back in, unfortunately. Minus an injury. Nugent Hopkins is a game-time decision for the second straight game, so it is possible that if he doesn't go, Skinner is going to be put in for Nuge, but Nuge is a vet guy. He wants to win a Stanley Cup, and I'm sure that unless his injury truly you cannot play with, he will play, like he did last game. The goaltending situation. So as I just mentioned, it's not Stuart Skinner's singular fault we lost this game. Yes, you would have liked him to make a couple other saves, I guess, but if we're being completely honest here, guys, Stuart Skinner, if he could have, bro, let's say he saves the Reinhart or the Bennett goals 3 and 4, right? Was Edmonton really going to come back? I don't think the Oilers played good enough to take advantage of a few extra saves from their goalie. And that's why you can't blame Stuart Skinner here. And I'm not even a big fan of his. There is video evidence of me ripping Stuart Skinner here on YouTube, on my TikTok. I have ripped that guy to shreds multiple times in the past. But I just like to call it how I see it. You can't possibly blame Skinner. You also can't blame the refs, and I'll get into that in a completely different part of this video. But you go back to Skinner for Game 4. I don't think the decision is that difficult. You go back to him for Game 4. Skinner has unbelievably good numbers in Game 4s. He just does. It's a weird thing. I actually found this on Reddit from last year's playoff run. In games 1 to 3 against the LA Kings, Stuart Skinner had a 3.33 goals against average with an .890 save percentage. In games 4 to 5 of that series, because it was only a 5-game series, he had a 1.5 goals against average and a .944, so significantly better. In the Vancouver series, games 1 to 3, he had a 4 goals against average with a .793 save percentage. He didn't play game 4, it was Pickard. He goes back in for game 5. He has a 1.5 GAA and a 906 save percentage. Again, significantly better. Against Dallas, games 1 to 3 at 266 goals against average, which actually isn't terrible. An .897 save percentage, which is below average. Games 4 to 6, a 133 and a 947, significantly better. And then this was posted before games 5, 6, and 7 of the Stanley Cup Final. Games 1 to 3 against the Panthers last year, a 3 goals against average, an 868 save percentage, which is not good. Game 4, a 1 goal against average, and a 970. So Skinner just tends to play really good in game 4s and more so just in the later stages of a series, period. So I think just because of history, you need to ride it out with Skinner and give him the start in this next game. However, you need to have a short leash. Yes, you put him back in. Yes, you give him the opportunity to, bounce back, to prove that he's good in the game 4s, to prove that he can be your goalie the rest of the series, whether that's 2 games, 3 games, or 4 games. You give him that chance. I would say if he allows a goal, whether it's a shitty one or not, if we are down 1-0 in game 4 within the first 5 minutes of play, you pull him. And I know that's a bit harsh, and I know that that's a very short leash, but the Oilers can't afford to let the bleeding start against the Panthers, because when the Panthers smell blood, they are just a completely different team. So the Oilers need to get ahead in this game. First of all, score the first goal. It would be great, but you can't allow one in the first 5 minutes either. So yeah, that's how I approach the goaltending situation. And I have a feeling Knoblauch will go back to Skinner for game 4. I don't know if he'll do the short leash. Knoblauch isn't really fond of pulling goalies. I feel like there isn't a lot. Like he did pull Skinner last game, but he pulled Skinner after the 5th goal. Like, fuck. I would have pulled Skinner after the 3rd one. And not because it was Skinner's fault, just because then you're at least are changing it up a little bit. And I don't know. I have no idea. But I think he'll go back to Skinner. I would say there's probably a 75% chance he does. I could see him going back to Pickard, but in my opinion, Skinner hasn't played nearly bad enough in this series to warrant not getting the next start. So we'll see what happens. Obviously, every single guy on the Oilers needs to be better going into next game. Yes, McDavid and Draisaitl are the guys that I would lead that with. McDavid had 3 shots on net last game. Draisaitl had none. I know McDavid's not a goal scorer, but McDavid doesn't have a goal yet in the finals. Like, him getting on the score sheet early in game 4 would be huge, just as a morale boost for the Oilers. Your captain just drags you right into the fight, right into the fray, gets one on the board. Like, that's one of those things that motivates the team. So I think that McDavid and Draisaitl need to have big games. One of the things that's really concerning is that I believe in his history against the Panthers in the Stanley Cup Final, Connor McDavid in Florida has 1 point at 5-on-5. 1. That's not going to cut it, unfortunately. So we need him to break through. Obviously, the benefit that Florida has with the home ice is the line matchups. Paul Maurice sends out Barkov and Forsling together. So you do your Barkov line with your Forsling and Ekblad pairing to shut down McDavid. It works because those guys are 2 of the best defensive players in the NHL. And that's where Draisaitl comes in, right? That's why having Draisaitl healthier than last year and on his own line is benefiting you, because if McDavid is getting shut down, the second best player on the planet in Leon Draisaitl should, take over that game against the second line matchups. And then the depth scoring, right? I mean, we've gotten absolutely nothing from the depth. We did get a goal from Arvidsson in game 1, but other than that, the depth has been absolutely invisible. I didn't really mention this in my past videos, and I feel like a bit of an idiot now, but yeah, the depth was performing at a bit of an unsustainable level. I will say that I didn't think it was going to fall off this drastically. I did think the depth was going to have the hardest time producing against the Panthers, just because the Panthers are easily the deepest team that Edmonton has had to play so far. But the fact that we've only gotten 1 depth goal in 3 games, considering how good they were the past 3 rounds, I didn't expect it to be that severe. And then an interesting thing to talk about, and I don't really... I'm not telling you guys that because of this, the Oilers are guaranteed to win the Stanley Cup. But in the last 7 Stanley Cup finals, 4 of the eventual Stanley Cup winners have lost by a hefty margin in either games 3 or 4. The most recent example of this is last year in Game 4 of the Stanley Cup Final. The Edmonton Oilers beat the Florida Panthers 8-1 in Game 4, proceeded to lose the series in 7 games. And that's a bit of a bad example because the Oilers were already down 3-0 in the series. And it's a bit off page, but in Game 6 of the series last year, the Edmonton Oilers won 5-1 in Game 6 to force a Game 7. They proceeded to lose 2-1 in Game 7. So that just goes to show that these athletes, they don't let the momentum carry over. They forget about a big loss. They move on. Why bother worrying about something you can no longer have an effect on, that you can no longer control? All you can do as the athlete is move on to the next game and have control over that game and that outcome, right? So that's that. The other thing as well is I feel like historically speaking, and I don't have a statistic to pull up, but I feel like historically speaking, when a team scores a lot of goals in one game, they tend to not score a whole lot the next. I don't know why. Like I don't know. I don't think it's like fatigue. It just seems that it doesn't happen. And maybe it's more so because the opposing team plays a bit tighter defensively after getting blown out. But I mean, the Oilers last year are a perfect example. 5-1 win in Game 6. They only had one goal the next game. So it's an interesting thing to kind of think about. But the other examples of teams that got blown out in Games 3. In 2022, the Tampa Bay Lightning were down 2-0 in the series going into Game 3. They win 6-2 in Game 3 to, make it a 2-1 series deficit. They lost that series in 6. In 2019, the St. Louis Blues and Bruins were tied 1-1 in the series going into Game 3. The Boston Bruins won 7-2 in Game 3 to go up 2-1 in the series. They lost in 7 games. And then the other example is in 2017, the Pittsburgh Penguins had a 2-0 series lead against the Predators going into Game 3. The Preds won 5-1 in Game 3 to make it a 2-1 series. They actually proceeded to win the next game as well, tie the series up at 2. They then proceeded to lose the next 2 and lose in 6 to the Penguins. So these players know how to move on and forget a loss, especially a big one like that. They don't dwell on it too much. They're able to put it behind them quickly and get going and just move on mentally and physically. So I actually feel confident right now, like truly. I feel like maybe that's a stupid thing to do, and putting more hope into the Oilers after getting our hopes crushed on Monday night is maybe like the dumbest thing to do, but the Oilers have a track record of bouncing back well, especially in embarrassing losses. 6-2 loss to the LA Kings in Game 2 this year. They proceeded to win 4 straight games and win the series. Now, I don't think the Oilers are going to win 3 straight games against the Panthers here to win the Stanley Cup because the Panthers are the best team in the NHL, but it just goes to show that Edmonton doesn't get shaken up too much. And yeah, they obviously kind of became pretty immature at the end of that game with all the theatrics and the fights and the scrums and all the immature shit. But I don't think from a game's perspective of like next game, I don't think they're going to be like scared to play because they got killed. They move on. They bounce back. There's a good leadership group in there. It's a good group just in general. They wouldn't be in the Stanley Cup final if they didn't deserve it. And I think now is time for the Oilers to show everybody why they are here and why they deserve to be here and why they think they have a chance to win the Stanley Cup this season. Obviously, it's not a must-win, but it feels like one. The Oilers, if they lose and go down 3-1 in the series, you're going to have a much more difficult time coming back and winning it. It's not over until it's over, but you don't want to be down 3-1 to the Florida Panthers. You've got to think the Panthers would have learned a thing or two about closing out a series last year after almost blowing a 3-0 lead in Game 7. So, blowing a 3-0 series lead and going to Game 7. So don't go down 3-1. It's plain and simple. I'm excited. I'm nervous. Obviously, I will make a video probably Friday afternoon following the game unless, I don't know, maybe if it doesn't end too late, I can still do one on Thursday night, I guess. But I will say I'm not a fan of the 2 days off between games. I hate it. I hate dwelling on a loss for 2 full days before the next game. It sucks, but I understand it. I think it's because they don't want to have games on the same night as NBA Finals games because they don't want to lose viewership, specifically in the U.S. So I get it, but Yeah, that's really all I have to say. I apologize if you guys were anticipating like a big blow up, a big rant, a big argument, a big whatever. I don't know what people were expecting. Like I said, all the emotional stuff is on my TikTok. You guys can check that out. Link in the description. This video was supposed to be more of like a looking forward, kind of positive outlook on a big loss, and what to expect for Game 4, hopefully. On the side of the Panthers, what you can expect is them to pummel the Oilers again and take a 3-1 series lead. Like, who fucking knows, man? The Panthers are such a good team. There are so many less variables with that team than there is with the Edmonton Oilers, and it must be such a nice feeling as a fan. But regardless, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for watching. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. If you like the video, leave a like and comment down below your thoughts on Game 3 and what your thoughts are heading into Game 4 tomorrow night. Stay tuned for the Game 4 post-game recap. I will catch you guys all in the next one. Go Oilers, go, baby.